4 years with Victoria. Everyone thought I was about to marry her. But right at this critical moment, my brother Ethan, who had married and moved abroad, suddenly divorced and returned home. Victoria personally picked him up at the airport and accompanied him to various events, staying out all night. Everyone was waiting to see me make a fool of myself, but I was relieved. Marrying her? Over my dead body. The day Ethan returned, Victoria was in my bed. I held her waist and pinned her hands down, pressing her against the bed. Her face was flushed, clearly aroused, but when that special ringtone sounded, she seemed to wake up like a fish, slipping out of my grasp. I caught her hand, asking where she was going. She brushed my hand away, saying, "Ethan is calling. It must be urgent." She answered the call so hastily she didn't even put on her shoes. Whatever Ethan said on the other end, her furrowed brow relaxed. She said softly, "We can't do this anymore. Wait for me, I'll be right there." As Victoria went to take a shower, I lay on the bed deep in thought. I didn't care what Ethan said to Victoria. I was just thinking about that ringtone. It was the one Ethan had set on Victoria's phone before he left the country. He told her, "You can't change this ringtone. Whenever you hear it, you'll think of me." No matter how much Victoria begged him to stay, Ethan left resolutely. That night, Victoria drank heavily. In a fit of anger, she smashed her phone on the ground. The screen shattered, and she regretted it immediately, cradling the phone and crying the entire night, full of hatred and helplessness. Later, she got a new phone, but suddenly wanted to find that special ringtone again. At first, she just wanted to hear it one last time, then let it go completely. But she couldn't remember what the ringtone was. Countless nights she lay in bed, listening to songs one by one, like searching for a needle in a haystack, hoping to hear that familiar melody. It became her obsession, something she couldn't let go. Just now, that special ringtone suddenly rang out, waking her up, and waking me up too. She had unknowingly found that ringtone again, hadn't she? Victoria came out quickly, dressing while saying, "I'm going out for a bit. Don't wait up for me." But I stopped her and said, "Victoria, let's end this." My relationship with Victoria had always been ambiguous. At first, when someone asked her if she was dating me, she shook her head, saying, "Just friends with benefits." I didn't comment on it because she wasn't wrong. But 2 years later, when she introduced me to others, she said, "This is my boyfriend." I was taken aback but didn't say much. Half a year ago, she suddenly asked if I would marry her. I nodded and proposed to her in a carefully arranged scene. She smiled brightly that day, and I was caught in that beautiful illusion, until I overheard her conversation with her best friend. Her friend was shocked, asking, "Are you serious?" She gave a non-committal smile, looking like she was compromising with fate, saying, "Spending a lifetime with Sebastian doesn't seem too bad." I felt uneasy, growing more restless by the day. I didn't know what was wrong with me until Ethan called, and I suddenly felt relieved. I realized I didn't want to marry Victoria. When I said that, Victoria, who was in a hurry, suddenly looked stunned and asked, "What did you say?" But the next second, her face filled with resentment. Her eyes were intense, but I didn't care. I smiled at her and said, "We're done. It ends here." I always thought she would never show that expression again. The look of hatred and helplessness intertwined in her eyes was just like the night Ethan left. But this time she didn't cry. She looked at me as if she wanted to tear me to pieces. After a moment, she turned away and chose to leave, leaving me with a cold, distant silhouette and a barely audible whisper, "So be it." I heard about Ethan's return and his divorce from a friend. Apparently, that young model cheated on him, saying it was for art, and slept with a photographer. In the end, she not only put him in an embarrassing situation, but also took his money and ran off. We certainly didn't understand this sacrifice for art business. I found it amusing, remembering how Ethan was so determined to marry that young model and move abroad with her. He said she was his muse, the purest light in the world, and that we ordinary people with colored glasses didn't understand love, let alone undying devotion. But he failed to see that their relationship was sustained by the high allowance his family sent him every month, which, in reality, was money I earned. But none of that mattered. It had been 3 days since I told Victoria it was over. I texted her, asking when she would come and pack her things, but she didn't respond. I contacted her assistant to handle it, but he kept stalling. So I changed the locks, not wanting to deal with it anymore. I bought this house for Victoria because she said she liked the serene mornings when the river flowed slowly under the bridge. So I stayed with her in this inconvenient suburb. Now that I've moved back to the spacious apartment near my office, I realized how foolish I was. Sleeping an extra half hour was a real luxury. Back at the office, I suddenly remembered I had an event tonight. Originally, I was supposed to attend with Victoria, but now I had to find someone else. So I asked my assistant to arrange someone to accompany me to the event. My assistant was puzzled. "Weren't you going with Victoria?" I replied, "She's probably going with someone else." My assistant's expression changed multiple times, seemingly conjuring up various scenarios in her mind. Moments later, she proclaimed with righteous indignation, "Don't worry, Sebastian. I'll arrange the best companion for you." But the next second, she awkwardly told me, "Sebastian, it's a special holiday season. No one is accepting requests. How about making do with what we have?" I was speechless and asked, "What do you mean by making do?" She hesitantly replied, "There's only one errand girl willing to take the job. Her profile says she loves boxing and is a fierce young lady, a master-level female boxer. What do you think, Sebastian?" I helplessly responded, "Do I have a choice?" She shook her head innocently, looking at me with big eyes. I was speechless. What could I do but agree? However, when I saw her in person, I was taken aback. How to describe her? Stunning figure, enchanting features, long legs with defined yet delicate muscle lines. She was a hidden gem among errand girls, truly goddess-like. If only she weren't so talkative. On the way, she kept chattering non-stop. "Our company doesn't usually take escort jobs." "Well, we do, but at a different rate." "And what about Victoria? She won't complain, right? I have a 99.9% satisfaction rate, and a complaint would cost me my bonus. But all can be resolved if you insist on this." "Shut up," I finally snapped, gritting my teeth. She looked innocent, calmly finishing her sentence, "For a fee." I took a deep breath and said, "Quiet, or I'll file a complaint. Of course, if you perform well, I'll give you a generous bonus afterward." She seemed pleased and gave me an okay sign, saying, "Relax, I'm a pro." As soon as we entered the venue, she exclaimed, "Wow." I frowned and scolded her, "No swearing." She pointed and said, "Your fiancé is over there." It wasn't just seeing my fiancé that surprised her, but also the man next to her. My fiancé was holding his arm, laughing charmingly. She then said with a gossipy look, "You've been betrayed." I sighed and replied, "That's my brother." She got even more excited, struggling to keep a straight face. Wow, double trouble. I wasn't sure if it was her playful comments or if I was genuinely unbothered. But watching Victoria and Ethan, I felt nothing. I had no intention of greeting them. But Ethan came over on his own. "Brother, long time no see. I've been back for days, and this is the first time we've met. Why didn't you answer my calls?" I was speechless. He always had a way of making me look bad. His words implied I was avoiding him, not caring for family. He continued, "Mom and Dad miss you. When will you come home for dinner? They'll be thrilled to see you." What a master manipulator. It was like he was saying I didn't care about our parents. Seeing my silence, he kept adding fuel to the fire. "I even brought you a gift. Please don't be mad at me anymore." This guy was unbelievable, always twisting things to make me look bad. Since we were kids, he'd make mistakes, but somehow everyone thought I was the culprit. Growing up, I realized Ethan was really cunning. So I said, "Answer your calls? When did you call me? Brother, is your memory failing you? Maybe you remember your ex-sister-in-law's number better?" The word sister-in-law made me feel disgusted. By now, people around us had started to notice and whisper. Then Rosemary, the professional girl, chimed in. "Mad at you? What did you do to Sebastian? Don't be vague. Explain what happened. And what's with the gift to make up?" Are you apologizing or being sarcastic? If it's an apology, say sorry properly. Only then can someone decide whether to forgive you. If you've done terrible things, we might have to take a firm stand and deal with it justly." Rosemary's words were so rapid fire that Ethan couldn't get a word in edgewise until Victoria coldly asked, "Who are you?" Her sharp gaze moved from Rosemary to me, and then to her hand holding mine. I met her gaze directly, tightened my grip on Rosemary's hand, and stepped forward saying, "So, miss, who are you?" I had already prepared for a confrontation, but then Rosemary unexpectedly pushed me from left to right. I was bewildered. She had tossed me aside like trash. It felt like I had teleported. How strong was she? Suddenly, I remembered what my assistant said about her being a master boxer. Maybe it wasn't a metaphor. Victoria glared at Rosemary and said, "Take your hand off him." Rosemary, with her head held high like a proud peacock, intertwined her fingers with mine deliberately, saying defiantly, "We live in a lawful society. You can't harass someone else's companion." Victoria, clearly agitated, said, "I am his fee." Before she could finish saying fiancé, Ethan interrupted her. "Victoria." Looking flustered, Ethan tightly grabbed Victoria's arm, his face pale. She glanced at me for just a moment, then focused on Ethan, her anger dissipating as he held her hand and they walked away. That night, apart from the conflict with Victoria and Ethan, Rosemary performed professionally. She said her face was going to freeze from all the smiling, and maintaining such a gentle and graceful demeanor was incredibly difficult. She then asked me, "Are you also exhausted?" I was speechless. Serving drinks, engaging in small talk, and maintaining appearances while barely eating anything. I feel like my soul has been drained. This made me want to smack her. She ate 4 whole Peruvian roast chickens. How could I still have any face left? Didn't she notice everyone's shocked expressions? But I had to admit, it was tiring. I gave Rosemary a big red envelope and promised to request her next time. She left with a sour face, emphasizing repeatedly, "I am a professional." I nodded perfunctorily, Sure, I'll introduce more business to you next time." After sending Rosemary off, I slowly returned home. As soon as I got upstairs, I saw Victoria standing there, expressionless, watching me quietly. I didn't intend to engage with her and tried to walk past, but she bumped into my chest, clinging tightly and refusing to let go. I reached out to pry her arms off me, but she ignored me and tried to kiss me. Startled, I pushed her away forcefully, shouting, "Get off!" Victoria stumbled back but got up as if she hadn't heard, moving towards me again. I grabbed her collar and pressed her against her collarbone, keeping her at a distance. Victoria looked at me in disbelief, taking a step back with eyes filled with venom. "You pushed me? Who do you think you are to push me? Weren't you the one acting like a desperate dog to get into my bed?" Even though I thought I had moved on, my heart tightened painfully, and a metallic taste filled my mouth. So in her eyes, this is who I was all along. I nodded and said, "Yes, you're right. It was me who pursued you. But so what? Did I force you? Our relationship was consensual. Now, when I say it's over, it's over. Don't touch me again." Victoria and I were childhood friends, born in the same year, with me being 3 months older. Our families were in business together, our parents were friends, and even our homes were connected. Victoria was my first crush, but she didn't like me. She liked the cheerful, sunny Ethan, while I, Sebastian, was seen as dull and lifeless. Some even doubted if Ethan and I were real brothers, spreading rumors that I might be adopted or an illegitimate child. Victoria once forced Ethan to apologize to me for these rumors, but it was more about protecting Ethan's image, not about me. Victoria would always love Ethan. When Ethan found his true love, married quickly, and moved abroad, Victoria became a desperate soul looking for Ethan's replacement. That's when I stepped in and made the suggestion. Victoria told me she didn't like me, and I responded, "We don't need to talk about love, do we?" I never needed Victoria to like me. Our relationship was purely based on mutual benefit. Ethan had been back for half a month, with Victoria by his side at every event, expanding his social circle. Meanwhile, my mother finally remembered my existence and called me, starting with a barrage of criticism. "Ethan has been back for so long and you haven't helped him at all, not even a phone call. Sebastian, do you still consider yourself part of this family?" It was laughable, as if my acknowledging myself as part of the family would make them treat me like one. "Is there something you need? If not, I'm hanging up." My mom, familiar with my temperament, held back her anger and told me to come home for dinner, saying she had something to discuss. She also asked me to bring back the cufflinks I had bought, saying Ethan would like them. I chuckled and hung up. Those were $3 million gold canary diamond cufflinks. Who wouldn't like them? Such a dinner would normally be something I'd avoid, but I knew if I didn't go, my mom would show up at my office the next day. Just like when Ethan defiantly wanted to marry that model. My mom stormed into my office, slapped me, and questioned why I didn't stop Ethan from being with such a person. I returned the slap to Ethan and sternly asked him when he had started associating with such people. When I got home, they had already started dinner, the three of them happily together. Victoria was there too. She looked stunned to see me, staring for a moment before looking away expressionlessly. Ethan stood up first, pulling me to the table. "Brother, don't be mad at Mom and Dad. You know I have low blood sugar. They didn't want me to faint from hunger, so they started without you." My mom coldly said, "Ignore him. He has no sense of punctuality. What can you expect?" I smiled. "Then I'll leave." My mom glared at me and said, "Come with me." I lazily followed her to the kitchen and asked, "What do you need?" My mom hesitated for a moment before saying, "Ethan and Victoria are getting engaged." I was stunned and didn't respond. She continued impatiently, "Victoria always liked Ethan. It was you who shamelessly tried to steal her from him. Now that Ethan is back, shouldn't you give Victoria back to him? Besides, Victoria doesn't like you. Forget about your relationship with her. And don't tell Ethan about your messy history with Victoria." I was speechless. I had often doubted whether I was really their biological child. When I was young, I even took their hair to do a DNA test with mine. The result was disappointing. Alas, my distraction made her unhappy. She questioned me, "Did you hear what I said?" I opened my mouth to respond, but Ethan opened the kitchen door, looking curious. "Mom, what are you secretly telling my brother? I want to hear too." My mom's expression changed instantly, and she smiled warmly. "Your brother said he brought you a gift." She even gave me a push. Ethan looked at me expectantly. "Brother, really?" I smirked. "A gift? Do you dare to accept a gift from me?" Ethan's face stiffened, recalling unpleasant memories. My mom wanted to say something, but I had already walked decisively to the living room. After all, I had unfinished business. The table was full of Ethan's favorite dishes. I looked at Victoria with a dark expression. She stood up in fear, taking a few steps back, nervously asking, "What's wrong? What happened?" I glanced at her and smiled. "I'm fine. Never been better." I gripped the edge of the table and lifted it slightly. It was heavy, as expected of a marble table. But since I came to this feast, I was prepared. I made a call, "Rosemary, bring the hammer up." Within 10 seconds, Rosemary burst in, asking, "What's up?" I nodded towards the table. "Hand it to me." Suddenly someone shouted, "Sebastian, don't you dare!" I couldn't tell if it was Victoria or my mom. I picked up the hammer, but my dad and Ethan grabbed my hand tightly. At that moment, Rosemary realized what was happening and said, "You should have said so earlier." The next second, she raised her fist high and brought it down like a storm. With one strike, the marble table cracked from the impact point, spiderweb-like cracks spreading across the entire surface. The sound of dishes and cutlery crashing to the floor was music to my ears. Soup and food splattered everywhere. The whole table was easily shattered by her. My mom was stunned. My brother was stunned. Victoria was stunned. Only I looked at the mess with satisfaction. No wonder she's my fierce young lady, a master-level boxer. I must give her a bonus. I met Rosemary at the security booth. She was wearing a delivery uniform, pleading with the guard to let her in to deliver food. I asked her, "Aren't you an errand runner?" She laughed. "Same thing." I asked, "Need money?" She nodded. So I let her in the car. Initially, I planned to fulfill my previous verbal agreement and give her a job. So I left the hammer downstairs to avoid alerting anyone, letting her wait in the car for my call. I didn't expect her to have such skills. My mom tried to rush at me, but Rosemary stopped her. "Auntie, do you want to try my slap?" My mom covered her face, stepping back 2 or 3 steps. "Sebastian, are you crazy?" Ethan supported my mom, angrily shouting, "Brother, apologize to Mom." I looked away and said to Rosemary, "Let's go." With Rosemary by my side, no one dared to approach. But as we were about to leave the front yard, Victoria caught up. She stared at me through Rosemary, asking, "Sebastian, who is she?" I put my arm around Rosemary and said, "What do you think?" Victoria's face turned ugly. I turned to leave, but she spoke again. "Ethan wants to be with me." I paused and replied, "Congratulations on getting what you wanted. Sebastian, don't you have anything else to say?" I smiled. "When you get married, I'll send a gift." Victoria smiled, but it looked worse than crying. Watching her leave, Rosemary rubbed her hands and said, "Why do I feel like she's so manipulative?" I was silent for a while and then asked nervously, "How are you so strong?" She clenched her fist and rotated it beside her rosy cheek. If I hadn't seen her shatter the table with one punch, I would have thought she was being cute. She proudly said, "Never underestimate a woman. I've trained in MMA Mountain, Muay Thai, Judo, and Taekwondo." Watching her lively expression, I was curious about what kind of family raised such a child. I asked, "Do you want to be my personal assistant?" Rosemary blinked and asked, "Personal? Or how personal? Is it a proper assistant job?" I was speechless. She changed the subject. "How much is the salary?" I asked, "How much do you want?" Rosemary held up 5 fingers. 50,000? She was about to wave her hand when I said, "Deal." Rosemary's eyes widened. I looked at her curiously. "What were you going to say?" She suddenly hugged me tightly, rubbing her face against my clothes. "From now on, you're my benefactor. I'll be on call 24/7. I felt like a tightly wrapped noodle and said helplessly, I got it. "Let go. We can discuss this." After this incident, I expected the coming days to be turbulent. I knew my parents and brother well enough to anticipate their moves. Adding Victoria to the mix, I just hoped they wouldn't act too rashly. At 11 at night, I had just finished a video conference, poured a glass of rice wine, and prepared to sleep. A friend's call came in. He said, "What's going on?" "Ethan and Victoria are together, kissing in public. Didn't you propose to her?" I was puzzled and asked, "Didn't Ethan get together with her as soon as he returned?" He replied, "But she said she treated Ethan like a brother and told us not to gossip. And now this?" No wonder the questioning came so late. But it makes sense. Ethan probably hadn't given her a clear signal, and she didn't want to make things difficult for him. Now that Ethan's attitude has softened, she must be eager. It all made sense now. I asked, "Is everyone there?" "Yes, are you coming?" "No, put me on speaker. I have something to say." Not many people knew about my proposal to Victoria, just our parents and this group of friends. It was time to clarify things, so it didn't seem like I was being cheated on. I said, "Victoria and I are over. From now on, we are free to marry whoever we want, and we have nothing to do with each other." I hung up immediately, not caring if Ethan heard. If they wanted to keep it from Ethan, that was their business. I never asked them to do so. Besides, I didn't believe Ethan was truly unaware. I downed my drink and coughed, ready to go to bed, but heard a commotion outside. It was late at night, disturbing the peace. I opened the door, ready to scold someone, but saw Rosemary's beaming face. "Good evening, Sebastian," I asked. "What are you doing?" She pointed to the house opposite mine, moving in. I rubbed my temples, moving in. She nodded enthusiastically. "How can I be your personal assistant if I don't live nearby? What if you need something when I'm not around?" I wanted to say she was overthinking it, but seeing her hopeful eyes, I hesitated. How much is the rent? I'll reimburse you. Rosemary handed over the rental contract without hesitation. Her sincerity won me over. Keep it quiet. I need to sleep. She mimed, zipping her lips, nodded heavily, and gave me a look that said, "You can trust me." I sighed and closed the door. I expected to hear some noise, but it was completely silent, allowing me to sleep peacefully. The next day, I brought Rosemary to the office. My assistant's eyes widened at the sight of her. Seeing her overactive imagination, I quickly explained, "She'll be my personal assistant from now on. Enter her information." The assistant nodded repeatedly and discreetly gave Rosemary a thumbs up. As we walked through the office, everyone was drawn to Rosemary's striking appearance and tall figure, following me closely. The employees whispered, unable to hide their smiles. I didn't need to hear them to know what they were thinking. Rosemary, seemingly carefree, laughed along with them. I asked, "What are you laughing at?" She replied, "Everyone's laughing. It would be rude not to join in." I was speechless. Are you really that naive? Did you put all your points into strength? But soon, everyone realized my assistant was not what they imagined. During the morning meeting, my mom and Ethan tried to barge in but were stopped by Rosemary. Seeing her, they obediently followed her to my office, allowing me to finish the meeting. Back in the office, my mom hysterically asked, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to drive Ethan and me to our graves? Didn't you promise not to tell Ethan about you and Victoria?" I replied, "I never promised that." I looked at Ethan and continued, "And how do you know he doesn't already know?" Ethan met my gaze, half questioning, half resentful. "Brother, you knew Victoria loved me, yet you took advantage. Don't you think that's despicable?" I stepped forward and asked, "Were you married to her then?" "No, but..." "Were you together then?" "No, but who was she to you then? Your girlfriend or your wife?" He was speechless, muttering, "Neither." I sneered, "Exactly neither. So what right do you have to question me? What I did with her is none of your business. Who do you think you are? Didn't you pursue your love? What, you want to keep a backup even after getting married? You, a blind, indulgent fool trying to act all righteous and questioning me? I suggest you clear your head. Your thoughts stink like rotten water. Anyone would think you're playing with mud in your brain." Ethan's face turned red, his body trembling. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "It's you. It's all your fault. Victoria said you forced her." I asked, "She said that?" Ethan, with his chin up, replied, "Yes, she told me herself." I laughed. "Fine, let her sue me. Let her call the police. Don't hesitate. Take her right now. Do you need me to drive you?" "Sebastian, have you no shame?" my mom yelled, raising her hand to hit me, but I grabbed her wrist, immobilizing her. Ethan shouted angrily, "You dare hit Mom? You're a heartless bastard." He tried to punch me but froze when he saw Rosemary's bright, expectant eyes. I let go of my mom's hand, checked the time, and asked, "Anything else? Will you leave on your own, or should I call security?" The drama ended, and I thought I could have some peace, but my assistant rushed in, saying, "Victoria rejected the collaboration proposal submitted a week ago." I asked in a low voice, "What's the reason?" My assistant shook her head and said, "No reason." I replied, "Submit it again." It was rejected once more. Clearly, Victoria was doing this on purpose. I called her, "What do you want?" She calmly replied, "If you want to talk, come in person." Rosemary drove me to Victoria's company. She slipped a panic button into my pocket, looking serious for the first time. "Press this and wait 10 seconds. I asked, 10 seconds? Can you fly? Besides, I'm not going into a lion's den. Business disputes have limits. In her office, Victoria slowly said, "Your uncle wants to return to the company. If you step down as CEO and hand over the company to him, all collaborations between our families will continue." I looked at Victoria silently and asked, "Is this Ethan's request too?" Victoria frowned. "What does this have to do with Ethan?" "Victoria," I began, "I built this company step by step. You know it's my grandfather's legacy, but you still want to do this." Victoria pressed her lips together. "Why are you always so stubborn? You know that if you step back, your relationship with the family will improve. Why do you have to make it like this? Sebastian, I'm doing this for your own good. I promise, if you give up the company, I'll mediate and get your uncle and aunt to forgive you. Actually, you don't need to do any of this. Once we get married, you'll be... I couldn't hear what Victoria was saying anymore. The word forgive left me bewildered. Wait, what did you say? Forgive me? Why do they need to forgive me? Do they have the right to forgive me? Victoria, do you hear yourself? There are things I don't like to think about, but that doesn't mean I've forgotten. My name is Sebastian, and I took my grandfather's surname. He married into the Fu family and managed the company diligently, not caring about his son's surname. But my grandmother felt guilty. After my mother gave birth to me, she suggested I take my grandfather's surname. My parents agreed without hesitation. They left me with my grandparents and went abroad. My grandmother regretted it, thinking her suggestion hindered my relationship with my parents. But it wasn't that. My parents didn't love me and didn't want to have me. They were traveling the world when they accidentally conceived me. They wanted to abort, but it was too late and risky. The pregnancy made my mother miserable, and the difficult birth left her resentful. She said I was a burden, and she couldn't like me. Seeing me annoyed her. When I was 3, they returned from their travels. My grandmother encouraged me to approach my mother, but she pushed me away, saying, "Don't touch my dress. You're so dirty and disobedient. I don't know how your grandparents raised you. You're an ungrateful brat. We should have another child." And so, Ethan was born. The apple of their eye. I couldn't even get close to him without getting slapped. They'd say, "What are you holding? Who let you up here? Are you trying to poke Ethan's eye out? How vicious." I just wanted to touch his face, but my mother's hysteria scared me into silence. My father made me apologize to my mother and brother. My grandparents protected me, with my grandmother trembling with anger. Impossible. I know the child I raised. My father tried to smooth things over. Even if it's not his fault, he should apologize. You've spoiled him. Spoiled? How? I raised him well. How did he become bad in your eyes? My father wanted to argue, but my grandfather intervened. Sebastian did nothing wrong. He won't apologize. If you keep this up, leave with your child. My grandmother told me, it's okay. Even if your parents don't love you, your grandfather and I always will. My grandfather said to truly let go, you must first hold on. Don't fear the pain. A quick cut is easier than a slow grind. I was once cherished, but after my grandmother passed, they tricked me into going abroad. They locked up my grandfather, forcing him to change his will. My father said, I'm your biological son. Why leave the company to Sebastian? Even if you want to give it to him, shouldn't Ethan get a share too? In that darkest moment, I cried for help, struggling and pleading, just to return to my grandfather. On that rainy day, with water filling my shoes and dripping on me, I was cold, wet, and starving. My head throbbed, and I felt faint, thinking I wouldn't survive. But then I saw Victoria. The rain wet her eyelashes, forming crystal droplets. Her eyes were clear but sad. She approached me with a small purple umbrella, shielding me. In that moment, the rain seemed distant, and it was just the two of us. She said, I came to find you, Sebastian. Victoria found me and brought me back. She took me to my grandfather's bedside. He held my hand and asked, do you want the company? I said, Grandfather, you'll get better. He patted my head. Whether you want it or not, I can only give it to you. This company is your grandparents' legacy. Will you guard it for us? After my grandmother passed, my grandfather didn't last long. 2 funerals nearly broke me, but they didn't stop. My mother forced me to sign over my shares, threatening to send me to a mental hospital for electroshock therapy if I refused. I refused to give in, so they tormented me, locking me in the basement, giving me 1 meal and 1 glass of water every 3 days. Yet it was still Victoria who secretly brought me food through the basement window from time to time. When my parents wanted to use the excuse of mental illness to send me to a psychiatric hospital, it was Victoria again who begged her parents to help me. During that time, she stayed with me, repeatedly telling me, "You're not ill. Don't let others think you are." It was this same Victoria who now spoke of them forgiving me. At that moment, I laughed heartily, feeling a clarity and purity I had never experienced. My thoughts were crystal clear. Victoria asked in a daze, "What's wrong?" She suddenly grabbed my hand and said, "I didn't mean that. I just think your family and you." I didn't want to listen. "Get out." "You want me to leave?" "Yes, leave." I pried her fingers off me, but Victoria's face turned cold. She returned to her desk and, with a command, security guards rushed in and pinned me down. It was then I realized they had no boundaries. I struggled and fought like a madman. All the bad experiences, the medications, the electric shocks, the locked doors, the restraints flooded back. Grabbing a medium-sized potted plant, I swung it around, creating a safe distance, and then jumped over the sofa. I intended to grab Victoria as a hostage, but she moved to the other end. They approached again, so I climbed on the table, swinging at them, making one retreat in pain. I jumped down the other side, staying close to the wall to avoid being surrounded. I managed to find a moment to catch my breath, using the potted plant to fend off anyone coming close. With my left hand, I fumbled for the panic button in my pocket. As Victoria yelled, "He's alone. There are 7 or 8 of you. Can't you handle him?" They rushed at me, knocked away the plant, and pinned me against the wall. I finally found the panic button and pressed it. 10. N9.E8-7. Rosemary said it only took 10 seconds. S6.F5.F4. I was pinned to the ground. Victoria looked down at me, her high heel hovering over my hand, and coldly asked, "What did you just say?" I continued counting. 3T2. Boom! The office door burst open. I turned to see Rosemary's heroic figure, striking a pose with her fist still in midair. The door was smashed, and everyone's attention was drawn to her. Victoria stiffened, retreating several steps. Rosemary playfully glanced around and said, "Wow, it's lively here." Before they could react, she ran to my side, throwing the guards off me and kicking Victoria away. Looking down at me, she asked, "Sebastian, are you okay?" Gritting my teeth, I said, "Let's go." I knew I had lost my composure. Rosemary practically dragged me out, with Victoria shouting behind us, "Sebastian, how dare you leave?" Rosemary took me to her place without asking. It was simply decorated, with no personal touches, looking very impersonal. After walking around a few times, she finally brought out a can of beer. Scratching her head, she awkwardly said, "I wanted to find something else for you, but this is all I have. Or you could go." Before she finished, I took the beer and said, "This will do." I didn't want to go home, even though it was just across the street. At this moment, I didn't want to be alone. For once, chatty Rosemary was silent. She drank beer with me, can after can, until I was slightly tipsy. I started talking. I spoke of my grandfather's dying words, the decline of the company my parents coveted, how it was already a relic when I took over, how my father had ruined it, and how I held on desperately. I was so tired but didn't dare relax, fearing I'd disappoint my grandparents, fearing they'd be angry with me. Rosemary suddenly said, "Have you ever thought that your grandfather didn't care about the company? He just wanted to protect you." I didn't understand. She continued, "You were just starting college, and your parents were terrible to you. Without the company as a shield, how would you have grown up? Wouldn't they have bullied you, hurt you? The crown protects the head, and your grandfather didn't care about the company. He cared about you growing up well." I was stunned. I pictured my grandfather's pained and reluctant expression before he died, as if saying, "Sebastian, I can't protect you anymore. What will you do?" My voice trembled. No one ever told me this. I never thought of it this way. Everyone sees me as privileged, but I felt burdened, overwhelmed. That feeling has always suffocated me. But now, someone tells me they're still protecting me. Even though they're gone, they're still protecting me. I sat on the living room carpet all night. Rosemary didn't comfort or console me. She just stayed, sitting across from me, never leaving. As dawn approached, I murmured to her, How did you manage to get there in 10 seconds? She replied, I was following right behind you. As your personal assistant, I couldn't just let you go in alone. Victoria meant what she said. She started targeting Fu's business, not minding the losses on her side. The board kept pressuring me, while my parents remained oddly silent, waiting to reap the benefits. Ethan came to see me, pretending to be concerned. Brother, don't blame Victoria. She's doing this for me. Father is getting old, and our parents have endured so much. I just want them to have security in their old age. I was too busy to even look at him and just told Rosemary to throw him out. Ethan, furious, shouted, Sebastian, you'll need me someday. Need him? As if. Victoria gradually stripped away my power, and I didn't resist. Everyone thought I was at the end of my rope, not knowing I was busy making money. All the business Victoria blocked was taken by an investment company called Eastbridge. I stayed waiting for the core staff who wanted to leave with me. I sighed to Rosemary. I envy the second-generation rich who just need to enjoy the wealth without messing things up. As a third generation, I feel helpless. Rosemary asked with a strange expression, Why? I smirked. Haven't you heard? Wealth doesn't last 3 generations. What do you plan to do? She asked. I shrugged. Since I can't sit and do nothing, I'll just become a solitary and lonely tycoon myself. Rosemary rolled her eyes. Poor you. I suddenly stepped forward and she shrank back, asking, What are you doing? I pulled her collar and saw a dark red mark. How hasn't it faded after so many days? Rosemary turned pale, swatting my hand away. Do you have no shame? What are you trying to do in broad daylight? I'm just concerned about you. Rosemary's ears turned crimson. I don't need your fake concern. How am I fake? She snorted. If you were really concerned, you would have stopped when I said no. Isn't no sometimes a girl's way of saying yes? I countered. Rosemary glared. When I say no, I mean no. Got it. I'll be more careful next time. Rolling into bed with Rosemary seemed natural after she fed me for a week. That night she cooked a big meal. We drank. She kissed me, and I held her. The day I was dismissed was sunny. My father, beaming, waited for me to step down. Sebastian, please. I nodded and stood up. As I did, the core staff who had been waiting to leave stood up and followed me. The scene was impressive. This was the moment I had been waiting for. It felt great. My father's face changed. What's going on? A sycophantic manager hurriedly said, They're useless. I approved their resignations. My father looked at me suspiciously. I smiled. You've hurt your own lifeline. The downfall is just a matter of time. When I left the company, Victoria was waiting downstairs. She said, Come with me. I'll help you start over. I looked at her puzzled. Why do you think I'd go with you? Victoria frowned. Don't be like this. Even if you have nothing now, Before she could finish, Rosemary appeared, leaning against me, her face against my chest, glaring at Victoria. I said it's a lawful society. Don't touch my man. Then she pouted. Sebastian, didn't you say you'd be responsible for me? Her look made me seem like a heartbreaker. I laughed, ruffling her hair. I never said I wouldn't. Victoria's eyes turned red. You and her? You lied to me, right? I don't believe it. Victoria, stop bothering me. She didn't give up, stepping forward to pull me. Rosemary turned, raising her fist. I said, Don't. You're protecting her? Rosemary asked. I'm protecting you. Do you want to go to jail? Who will cook for me if you're in jail? I pulled Rosemary away. Victoria shouted, Sebastian. I turned to look at her. She stared, a mix of anger and pleading. If you leave with her, we're truly done. Done? Victoria, when you helped them against me, we lost the last bit of connection. I wasn't. I don't want to hear it. Rosemary, covering my ears like a child, hung on me. I laughed, sighing, and picked her up. Actually, Eastbridge is mine. I never intended to hide this. When Victoria stormed into my office, her face was red with disappointment and frustration. Sebastian, you've been lying to me. Lying about what? Eastbridge. Victoria, you should have checked. I founded Eastbridge 3 years ago. I told you my expectations, plans, and dreams. But you didn't care. Victoria looked confused, clearly having forgotten. But Foos is your grandfather's legacy. Are you just leaving it? Get it straight. Did I leave it? You all forced me out. I didn't really want to push you out. You just wanted me to submit. My words made Victoria clench her hands tightly. I continued. You know I'm not someone who easily backs down, so you used what I care about most to control me. I can understand that. What I don't understand is why you did it. Victoria shook her head frantically. No, I was just angry with you. I wanted you to bow your head, coax me, and come back to me. We were ready to get married, but you suddenly ended it. Sebastian, why did you treat me like this? Why betray me? Her words were so absurd that I was stunned. Before I could respond, Ethan burst in, trying to hit me, but Victoria blocked him. What are you doing? He demanded, eyes blazing. Did you force Victoria to come here? How could you, my brother, steal my woman? Do you think she brought you back because… Victoria, terrified, tried to cover his mouth. Stop talking. If you say one more word, we're done. Ethan, furious, said, Victoria, are you breaking up with me for him? The scene was so ridiculous that I laughed. My laughter enraged Ethan, who shouted, Do you think you've won, feeling smug? I nodded. Seeing you upset makes me happy. Ethan, eyes red with anger, said, Do you really think she likes you? Do you know that what you thought was salvation was actually for me? Stop talking. Victoria slapped Ethan hard, trembling. It's not like that, Sebastian. Ethan seemed to expect me to break down, and Victoria looked at me cautiously, but I felt nothing. I already knew, I said. Someone once asked Victoria if she liked me. She said no. How could I care about his life or death? If he died, it would trouble Ethan's parents. I recorded this and listened to it repeatedly. Now, I played it for Victoria. Her face turned pale. Why? If you knew, why stay with me? I leaned back in my chair, thinking of how to explain. Maybe I was too young then. Losing 2 loved ones and being betrayed by the rest of my family made life unbearable. But I wanted to live, so I needed something to hold on to. No matter why you were good to me, you were good to me. So I liked you. But liking you is a losing deal. What could I do? My grandfather always told me to take things up and let them go. To let go, you must first take it up. So I thought, how do I let go of you? First, I had to have you. Victoria stepped back, asking, Are you saying every day with me was to leave me? I looked at her silently. She shook her head. I don't believe it. You love me. You do. Love you? Not a chance. The office door burst open, and Rosemary's bag flew in, hitting Victoria. She stumbled back. I quickly grabbed Rosemary, who was ready to pounce. I was gone for 3 hours, and you're already causing trouble? Victoria, clutching her aching stomach, looked worse. You're just getting back at me, right? You two aren't together. You're just getting back at me. Fine, I give up. Sebastian, I'll do anything if you come back. Rosemary, furious, shouted, Do you need a beating? She was harder to hold back than a wild boar. Annoyed, I said, You're overthinking. No revenge. I just don't like you anymore. I didn't see Victoria's reaction, but Rosemary laughed. Hear that? He's mine. Victoria was escorted out by security, along with a terrified Ethan. I didn't care about them. My main task was to calm Rosemary, who was about to explode. Rosemary, arms crossed, paced angrily. How did she get in? The security downstairs is useless. Fire them all and get new ones. I don't believe they can't stop her. You're making me dizzy. Can you sit down? She glared. I'm annoyed. I sighed. Let me hold you for a bit. She hesitated, then walked over. I hugged her, finally calming her down. Where did you go? I asked. Back to the company for some business. Rosemary had multiple roles. Besides being my personal assistant, she worked at a design studio. I later learned that the errand girl who looked like a bodyguard actually studied design. Should I invest in you and open a studio? I asked. Actually, I have something to tell you. Her tone was hesitant. What? I asked, suspicious. Did you cheat on me? She almost jumped. Of course not. Then what? She picked up a financial magazine from my desk, pointing to an interview on the cover. Do you know this person? He's my dad. And that design studio is mine. I'm the second-generation rich kid who could sit and do nothing but chose to start a business. Life is indeed unpredictable. Rosemary said her father always saw her as a problem child. He wanted her to go to business school, but she chose to study design. He wanted her to study abroad, but she chose to return home and learn martial arts. He wanted her to take over the family business, but she chose to start her own company. She said, "It's not that I want to go against my dad. I have my own ideas. I was born with privileges, so for me, studying or starting a business is just an experience. But for many others, it's a matter of survival." A former classmate of mine, who was excellent and ambitious, ended up working as a cashier at a convenience store. Her hands, which could create beautiful designs, now couldn't do what she was best at. I've met many girls like her. Because of past choices, they lost their opportunities. I just want to give them another chance. I looked at her silently and asked, "So why did you become an errand girl and deliver food?" Rosemary, feeling wronged, said, "I ran out of money. I couldn't pay salaries." "So you supported the company with odd jobs?" "Yes." Looking at the helpless kitten in front of me, I patted her head and asked, "How's the business doing now?" She looked even more dejected. "Not great." I said, "Give me your company's financial statements and operational reports." She asked, "What for?" "I'll evaluate it. If it's worth investing, I'll fund it through Eastbridge. If not, I'll do it personally." Rosemary hugged me. "What if it loses money?" I kissed her. "Then it loses money. I can afford it. I'll just have to work harder." Eastbridge continued to develop as planned. Meanwhile, news from Fuse kept coming in. They say new leaders make bold moves. My father's first act was to open a studio for his precious son, hiring top agents at high prices, investing heavily in promotion, waiting for a big hit. He also secured a major government project, thriving. My mother hosted a lavish banquet, feeling triumphant. Of course, I wasn't invited, nor was Victoria. I heard she and Ethan fell out after the incident. One day, she called me drunk. Rosemary, tapping on her phone, asked, "Can I block her?" I thought you're already doing it, but nodded. Victoria probably tried to find me. I heard rumors but never saw her. I must say Rosemary's security skills are top-notch. For her good performance, she asked for a reward to meet her parents. I was nervous, but her mother was kind, though her father seemed hesitant. We exchanged contact information. On the way back, her father messaged me, asking if I was interested in joining his company. Rosemary, exasperated, said, "He's given up on me and wants to poach you to manage the company." In the car, Rosemary mused, "He keeps pushing me to take over the family business. When will it end?" I thought and said, "How about we have a child and pass the responsibility to them?" Problem solved. Rosemary was stunned for 2 seconds, then slammed on the brakes, blushing. "What did you say?" "Problem solved." I took out a ring I had prepared, opened it in front of her, feeling nervous. It wasn't the right time or place, but the moment felt right. "Miss Rosemary, will you marry Mr. Sebastian?" Rosemary's eyes filled with tears as she jumped into my arms, nodding. "I will." The Fu family faced a crisis. Their grand illusion collapsed in an instant. My father, though not business savvy, wasn't stupid. I never expected him to resort to bribery. It was a simple trap, and he fell right into it. 20 million, enough to keep him in prison for life. My mother came to me, demanding money to bail him out. I laughed. He broke the law. How can I bail him out? My mother scoffed. It's just money. You don't want to help your father? Your grandfather told you to take care of us. I nodded. Grandfather did say that, but he meant not letting you starve. Nothing more. I advise you not to make any rash moves in this sensitive time. She didn't listen. 3 days later, she was taken to the police station for causing trouble and trespassing. Clearly, she tried to bribe someone and got reported. The police contacted me to bail her out. Was it because the official was kind-hearted? No, they just didn't want trouble. My mother still thought she was right. I laughed at her stupidity. Go ahead. You can reunite in prison. She fell silent, grabbing my sleeve. You won't abandon your father, right? I pushed her hand away. I can't help him. What about the company? Your grandfather left it to you. He'll take care of it, right? I looked at her suspiciously. What did you do? She avoided my gaze. Nothing. I just heard that project was profitable. They said it was a sure thing. It's our family company. It won't be a problem, right? Just put the money back in. I stepped back coldly. That's your problem, not mine. She said, but it was left to you by your grandfather. Now it's yours. I replied, you have more than one son. She fell silent. I went to discuss Ethan, but ended up giving her a new idea. That night, Victoria called me from a new number. I was about to hang up and block her when she urgently said, Ethan came to me. My hesitation seemed to give her hope. She quickly said, they came to me, asking for help to repay his debts. I refused Sebastian. I refused him. I didn't help him. After a long silence, I said, you should have helped. If you had, I might have thought better of you. At least you would have truly loved someone. But now, you love no one. Sebastian, I love you. I do. Come back, please. I was wrong. I'll never contact him again. Please come back. Victoria, don't contact me again. Sebastian, don't do this. And don't call me by that name. Sebastian was given to me by my grandparents. It means broad-minded, able to carve out my own space even in a harsh world. My grandfather said our family's children should be like that. This name is a hope from those who love me. So, I only want those I love, and who love me to call me that. Rosemary, blushing, grabbed my back and asked, can I call you that? I moved, almost breaking her. Do you love me? She trembled. Sebastian, I love you. Epilogue. Rosemary and Sebastian married in the second year of their meeting. That year, many things happened. His father was sentenced, Foos went bankrupt, and his mother was in a car accident, pushed by Ethan. After Victoria left the country heartbroken, Ethan realized he could never be with her. He was scared and wanted to sell everything and flee abroad. But his mother disagreed, still hoping to be a wealthy lady. She thought filling the company's hole would make it profitable again, not knowing the company's funds were long gone. The money she embezzled couldn't be simply replaced. The loving mother and son quarreled over money. Ethan pushed his mother, and she was hit by a car. The car fled, and Ethan ran. Missing the best treatment time, his mother was left with a limp, secretly sent to a nursing home by Sebastian. As for Ethan, he was caught at the airport by people Sebastian and Rosemary personally brought. Ethan screamed, "What are you doing?" Sebastian, smiling wickedly, said, "Nothing, taking you to a place with food, drink, and shelter." Ethan, horrified, "You're sending me to prison?" "I didn't mean to push her." Rosemary disagreed. "Prison? That's too good for you. We've arranged a better place, right next to your mom. You can chat with her all day." Ethan wouldn't comply easily, so Sebastian told him, "If you leave the nursing home, I'll send your location to your ex-wife. She's been looking for you. Choose, stay with your mom or your ex-wife." Ethan was terrified. His ex-wife was a lunatic, hurting herself and others. If she found him, he'd be tortured. He had cheated during their marriage, so he had no choice but to comply. Ethan thought it wouldn't be a big deal since his mom had caretakers. But he soon realized he was wrong. The woman was crazy, always trying to hit him, blaming him for her fate. "If I hadn't had you, if only Sebastian were my only son." Ethan laughed. "Do you think Sebastian will acknowledge you? Dream on. He holds grudges. He remembers you pushing him down the stairs, burning him with cigarettes, making him kneel." His mom shouted, "It was because of you. You said Sebastian bullied you. You lied to me." Ethan laughed harder. "A child can lie to you? You just didn't like him. Seeing you treat Sebastian like that scared me. I thought if you didn't like me, you'd treat me the same. So I framed Sebastian, fearing he'd compete with me. They argued, revealing each other's faults with no mercy. Watching the surveillance, Rosemary's heart broke. She smashed one table after another to calm her rage. At home, she clung to her husband, feeling her heart ache. Sebastian let her vent. After finishing his work, he asked, "What's wrong?" Rosemary shook her head. "Nothing." Sebastian sighed. "If it hurts to listen, don't. Why torture yourself?" Rosemary stiffened. "You knew." Sebastian laughed. "You didn't come back for a long time. I guessed." "Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop." Sebastian frowned, hugging her. "I'm not angry. No need to apologize. I can guess what they'd say. I just didn't want you to be upset." Rosemary was indeed upset. "If only I had met you earlier." Sebastian's heart softened. "It's not too late. Whenever you appear, it's never too late." Rosemary hugged him tightly. "Don't be sad." Sebastian couldn't help but laugh. "It's okay. The real harm she caused was when I was young, still craving parental love. I approached them, got hurt, and then avoided them. My grandparents avenged me." Sebastian never felt particularly unlucky. Though his parents didn't love him, he had his grandparents and now Rosemary. He had suffered but also received love and was still loved. What more could he want? Life is rarely perfect, but having some is enough.